Welcome back to another edition of Gary's Record Collection. Today we're doing another live album from 1984. This is an interesting title because it claims to be the last album from The Who. Who's Last? This was recorded on their 1982 farewell tour. They said, you know what? 82, we're probably approaching 40 years old. And they said, we're done with it. We're out. We're gone. As we know, history has shown that you can't keep a good band down, so they've been going in several incarnations since then. So here it is. Who's Last? On the back, we've got Roger Daltrey, John Entwistle, Pete Townsend, of course, Kenny Jones on drums, who took over after Keith Moon died in '78. And this is the thing about The Who. They keep going. They lost Keith Moon, they replaced him with Kenny Jones. Later, they lost John Entwistle, and they went on with Pino Palladino, and so on and so forth. So anyway, let's go back to 1982. This is recorded, most of this album is recorded at the Richfield Coliseum in Cleveland on December 14th. This is not the last actual show of The Who's tour. That happened in Toronto in like 3 days later. It was like December 17th. And the difference is this is not Who's Last. This is actually the last concert. This is a different thing. This is the pay-per-view special that was put out on that day. And I remember seeing it in TV Guide because I lived close to the Canadian border, and it looked like it was going to be on CTV for free on December 17th, and of course it was not. They moved it over to pay-per-view, which was too bad. However, it did come out on videotape later. So let's go back. Most of this recorded at the Richfield Coliseum. There are exceptions. A few songs, one was recorded, Substitute was recorded at Jack Murphy Stadium in San Diego. Behind Blue Eyes at the Brendan Byrne Arena in East Rutherford, New Jersey. And then near the end, Magic Bus and Summertime Blues both recorded at the Kingdome in Seattle on October 20th. But the bulk of this does come from Cleveland, and you can hear it at the end of Won't Get Fooled Again, where Pete Townsend says it was our last U.S. concert, glad it was here. Roger Daltrey also mentioning Cleveland in it. So let's get to it. This is it opens with what you would expect to be the set opener or the set closer. It could go either way, My Generation. Or stop touring, I guess, maybe. That's when they got to be 40 years old, it's like, well, maybe not. So they followed that up. And by the way, My Generation was not played every single night of the tour, which is, I find that fascinating because it's like their signature song, one of their signature songs. 42 shows on the tour, and they only played it 24 times, so just a little bit over half. I find that very interesting that they did that. I thought that would be just, you had to play My Generation, just like you had to play, Won't Get Fooled Again and Baba O'Reilly. You had to play all of those songs. One song they did play every night, though, was the second song, I Can't Explain. And then they were followed that by another song from the 60s, Substitute.
We'd like to carry on. We look pretty good together.
And then after Substitute, this is where the album starts to deviate from what happened in concert, because after Substitute at Richfield Coliseum, they played Sister Disco from the Who Are You album, not included on the album. The Quiet One, It's Hard, Eminence Front, also not on the Who's last album. Now, the interesting thing about some of these songs, It's Hard, Eminence Front, those were out from albums that were recorded on the Warner Brothers label, not MCA, and this Who's Last album is an MCA release. So rather than complicate things by getting permission from Warner Brothers, and they just stuck to the MCA songs, which went through the catalog. Who Are You in 1978 was the last MCA release by The Who. And then it goes into, we get back on track on the record, Baba O'Reilly. In concert, Dr. Jimmy was played next, but that comes way later on the album. They start shuffling things around. One of the highlights, I think, of this album is the, after Who Are You, which, by the way, this is the first time that we would have heard this on an album in a live version. It was, because it was very popular in 78, 79, 80. We started hearing it, you heard it on the radio all the time, and finally hear a live version of it was great. And there were claims that people talk about this album and say the band was tired, they were on their last legs. You listen to this thing, especially listen on headphones, it's like that sound is tight. They are blasting it out. You've got Kenny Jones, who, on the albums, sounded like a very linear drummer compared to Keith Moon. Keith Moon was all over the place. But you listen in that live setting, and it sounds pretty good. Especially for a recording in 1982, they didn't have all the digital effects and everything to do all the crazy stuff that they can do now with the recordings and multi-tracks. So I think it stands up pretty good. One of the great tracks on this album is John Entwistle's Boris the Spider. They'd only played it sometime, but every time they did, it was great.
Running up my wall, black and hairy, very small. Now he's up above my head, hanging by a little thread. Boris the Spider. Boris the Spider. Now he's dropped onto the
And the reason I'm laughing is because I just love the way that he deals with that, the refrain of Boris the Spider. Because it's not just singing Boris the Spider, he's doing it in that growly voice where you drop your voice instead of Boris the Spider, Boris the Spider. And he just gets that horrible growl in there just to make it sound mean and ugly. And it's just great. Now I will say on the, if you're comparing versions, version on the record is good, but then you watch it on the video from Toronto and they have a lot of fun. They throw a rubber spider down on the ground. Pete Townsend bashes it like 6 or 7 times, stomps on it and puts a guitar chord on it. So and I think John Twizzle at the end said missed, which is just pretty funny, I thought. Another song that they did, now I thought this song would have been a closer, but no, it is actually in the middle of the album. And actually it was later in the concert, in the actual concert. In the concert it was the 20th song, but on the album it was moved up 10 or 11, Long Live Rock, which I remember hearing from at the end of The Kids Are All Right movie, which was a great way to close that movie out. It was just like a perfect song for an encore. And it had come out in 73, I think it was, and it was just a great anthem. We're going to skip ahead where the song kind of ends, but then it doesn't. Because it's only like a 3-minute song, right? That's great. It's the Long Live Rock reprise, which they separated out on the album, but it just goes together. It's just a cool little way to wrap it up. And yes, after Long Live Rock was Won't Get Fooled Again, both on the album and in concert. And then you get into the encores, and this is where we skip around just a little bit with the venues, because here comes on side 4, they've got they have Dr. Jimmy, which we said earlier was earlier in the concert, so they stuck that on the top of side 4. But after that was Magic Bus, recorded at the Kingdome in Seattle, and I just absolutely love this song, this version of it, because of the rhythm, the way it's going.
Every day I get the cue to get on the bus that takes me to you. I'm so nervous I just sit and smile. House is only another mile. Thank you, Tyler, for getting me here. To have no fear. I don't want to cause no fuss, but can I buy your magic bus? No! And have it!
That's great. And we're going to skip ahead a little bit because I think I like the little break in this song. So let's listen to this real quick. I just like that, how they kind of, it's one of those little subtle stage tricks where they end the song, we think they're ending it, then they come back with just a little bit more. Any song that does that, it's just I think it's an audience grabber, so I love it. And now we are in the encores. We're staying in Seattle at the Kingdome for a cover version, Summertime Blues. More of that gravelly sound from John Entwistle.
Ain't no cure for the summertime blues.
And then it's finally back to the Richfield Coliseum for the last song, Twist and Shout. And that's John Entwistle on lead singing that too. So that's Daltrey and Townsend are in the back doing the background vocals on there. So yeah, it was going to be a couple of more dates in Toronto, and that was it for the band. And then so, yeah, who's last? Now, in the album, if you find this is great because this is the whole thing. This was the argument about CDs when they came out. They're like, 5 by 5 inches. They're just not, they're small and like all the artwork is down. Here's like the inserts from the album. It's like big pictures, big glossy pictures. Here's the other album that has it, and it's just great. This is what you see when you're holding these albums. This is the tangible thing. It's like you're holding these and you're looking at these great pictures. And then you've got the cover, which is a gatefold, by the way, and you open it up and here it is. It's The Who, and this was their stage setup. Look how gigantic that is, with the running lights all over the place. They've got the screen up at the top. The stage is in the middle. And it goes all the way across that front of the stadium. Just a big, spectacular, well, it's a spectacle, really. But they thought it was going to be the end, so they went all out. Like I say, it's not the same as Live in Toronto. On that record, you get, or the videotape, and I guess it's out on DVD. It's like you can get some of the songs from the It's Hard album, including Eminence Front, which is actually one of my favorites. It's too bad that it wasn't put on this Who's Last album. It would be it might actually be kind of cool to do a super deluxe box set on the last the 82 tour and then add in more of these songs. They could probably do it now. They can probably afford the licensing. So, and it's their songs and it's their legacy too. So there you go. It's Who's Last by The Who. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time on Gary's Record Collection.